Hello, hello, hello. Jordan Sheridan, live from my parents' kitchen. If you have followed me in the past, if you have followed me in the past, this is where it all began. This is where it all began. The origins of status quo started right here in my parents' kitchen, where I will be all week. So I apologize if the lights are a little bright behind me, if my hair is a little messed up. Show us what's in the freezer. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. But I'll be here this week handling some business at home. I hope everyone had a nice New Year's. The legendary Sheridan kitchen is correct. William, happy Jew year to you as well. Happy New Year to everybody. And I'm not big on resolutions. Let's just keep beating the living hell out of the oligarchy. Does that sound good? Let's just beat the hell out of the oligarchy and build status quo into the premier independent media network on planet Earth. So, no, I have not permanently moved back to my parents, but I'm out here this week. Got some stuff going on with some friends that grew up here. So we are out here on Long Island this week. Also, a public service announcement. I will be live reporting to you and simultaneously doing the live chat because Jen is off this week and maybe next week. I'm trying to convince her to take some time off because she's burnt out, and I took a vacation. Jen deserves as much time off as she could get. So I'm going to do a little bit of multitasking here. I'm going to try and answer questions, comments, concerns, have a little fun with you in the super chat, and all those good things. As a reminder, if you're new here, you always have a checklist. So, smash that like button. Smash it. The more people that press the like button, the more people that will see the live stream. So we have 112 people watching and only 36 likes. So a lot of you are slacking. Press that like button. Again, every time another person, every time, what do they say? Every time an angel gets his wings. Every time you press that like button, more people see the feed. We had on Sunday when we were live, we had over almost 350 live viewers, which is pretty good for us. So everybody like the live stream. Even if you dislike me, I'd appreciate liking that live stream. Become a member. We're going to talk more about that in a little bit. You can go to statusquo.com, click Become a Member, see our options, which I'm about to get to. Follow us at Status Quo on the Twitter. Subscribe to our podcast. You have the link right there. That's another way we're going to grow through our podcast. And you could go to the Evil Empire Facebook, facebook.com/status quo. Like us there. So, obviously, there's news on the presidential campaign front. But before I get to that, I practice something with the audience called radical transparency. And also Jen's out, so I could get away with things. She tells me not to do certain things. But I like to be honest and keep real with the audience. So I want to give you an update. Here. We are at $35,451 of our $50,000 goal. Hold on. Oh, thank you. My father just sent me a note. Every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings. I tried to get my dad to come on the live stream today. He's here, but he doesn't want to. What can I tell you? I wanted to talk to him about politics. He's a Fox News watcher, so we have very interesting things to talk about. So that is where we're at in the GoFundMe, and that is where I want to talk to you. So first off, if you didn't watch on Sunday, we got an amazingly generous donation. I'm not going to say who, they left it anonymous, but we got an amazingly generous donation of $5,000 from a wonderful, wonderful viewer. If you're watching now, that viewer, I've emailed you twice to try to get your phone number so I could call you and personally speak to you and thank you. Haven't gotten a response yet. So I'm definitely wanted to talk to you, sincerely thank you, among other things. So what I want to talk to you about, because I don't want to make any unilateral decisions, I like consulting the audience to see what they think. If I'm keeping it real, and again, I'm going to put on the screen, I did not, nor did Jen think we were going to raise this much money in such a short period of time. We launched the GoFundMe on September 12th, 2018. And we have raised $35,451, which comes out to about $10,125 a month, if my math is correct. So we're raising over $10,000 a month. And we are, not crazy close, but fairly close to our $50,000 goal. We thought that we probably raised maybe like $5,000 a month, $7,000. We definitely didn't think $10,000 a month, which shows you how desperately people want what we are offering, which is in the field reporting of a disappearing middle class, environmental genocide, police brutality, economic oppression, state and local level corruption, all those things. So we would like to raise our goal. We would like to raise our goal beyond $50,000. But I didn't want to do that without talking to the audience. And I'll tell you why we want to raise our goal beyond $50,000. Again, radical transparency. I want to talk to the audience before doing anything. Again, number one, we didn't expect to grow and raise money this quickly. And number two, and most important, I think, I can't give you how I know this, but I do know this, that Bernie Sanders is going to run for president. I cannot go any further than that other than to tell you I have good sourcing and solid sources that tell me that decision has already been made. I don't know when he is going to be announcing, but if I had to guess, I would say probably the end of January, maybe February. Again, not giving you an exact date. That is what I believe. Obviously, when we set the amount that we wanted to raise at $50,000, we did have in mind, we want to raise money both to go in the field and report on a lot of different things, but we also had in mind we want to have money to cover, to run Bernie. Hank, no, I'm not talking about weapons of mass destruction. My sources are better than Colin Powell. So bottom line, even if we hit the 50,000 mark relatively soon, and at the pace we're going, we're raising $10,100 something a month, we would hit 50,000 in a month and a half if we stay at that pace. Even at $50,000, we would not have the funding here yet. We are working significantly behind the scenes to get larger funding beyond GoFundMe. But we would not have the funding to cover Bernie Sanders' campaign on the ground as much as I think it needs to be covered. So as a result of that, I am coming to you before making any decisions and saying we would like to raise our GoFundMe amount to $65,000. And obviously that's significantly higher than $50,000. But the reason is to cover the Bernie Sanders campaign, and even if we hit $65,000, that wouldn't be enough. That wouldn't be enough to cover the whole campaign. But it would give us enough of a cushion that we can cover several primaries. We could cover before the primaries. We could cover before the primaries when he has rallies, when he has events. And I think if you watched us Sunday, and I showed you the all-out assault on Bernie Sanders right now, I think it's going to be extremely, extremely important that there is truly, and I'm saying truly, independent media on the ground during this campaign to debunk and to push out the message of Bernie Sanders. As I always tell you, I personally support Bernie Sanders. That doesn't affect my factual reporting. So if Bernie does something bad, I'm going to say it. If I find out something corrupt about Bernie, I'm going to report it. So far, I haven't. But the bottom line is, Patrick, thank you for $2 in the super chat. Yes, for the increase. You're the man, Jordan. Appreciate it, Patrick. You're the first super chat of 2019. Appreciate it, Patrick. But I didn't want to unilaterally press that edit button, move it up to 65,000 without talking to the audience. So this isn't trying to move the goalposts because we're getting greedy. This is, I have it on high authority that Bernie Sanders is running for president. I would like to be able to be in the field in the early days of that campaign to cover it. We saw what happened in 2016 with the Bernie blackout. We saw what happened in 2016 with basically the corporate media just being treacherous, smearing him, propaganda put out there, not even reporting his crowd sizes, not even reporting the movement and his energy. And I believe Status Quo has to be out there to show you what's actually happening. We are not going to be working to elect him. We are journalists. I'm not going to work avidly to elect Bernie Sanders, but I am going to be working avidly, A, to get larger funding in the background, but B, to get enough funding that we could cover it. Because I think it's important. Obviously, the Young Turks exists. I think they'll be out there. I don't know if they'll be out there as much as I was in 2016, but they'll be out there. But other than that, I don't know of many outlets that will be out at Bernie rallies doing what you know me for, which is interviewing voters, interviewing his supporters, interviewing local politicians in these communities, in these primary states that support him, covering local stories in the key primary states. It's not just about covering the campaign. It's about being on the ground, covering the local issues that are really going to decide this election, not the propaganda and nonsense the corporate media covers. So that is why I would like to raise the GoFundMe goal. Obviously, it's going to take us longer to raise $65,000 versus $50,000. However, I got nothing better to do on Sundays. I'm going live every Sunday, rain or shine, all-day marathons. We start at noon Eastern on Sundays, and sometimes we go till 8 o'clock at night. So if I'm willing to do the work, I really, really hope you will join me in helping me raise this money. Obviously, a lot of you are already tapped out, so I understand if some of you need a little break from donating, that's fine. But I would like to raise it to $65,000, and I'm telling you what that extra money is going to be on, and a lot of that extra money will be to cover the Bernie Sanders campaign. So, buy a super chat poll. Thank you, Fennell, $2 in the Bernie 2020 super. Fennell, thank you for the $2 super chat. Buy a poll. Let me know in the super chat. Yes to raising, no to raising. Go. Do 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 do. Wow, that's a hell of a lot of yeses. Well, somebody once told me take yes for an answer. So, here I go. Are you ready? In fact, go to 70? Should we do 70? Darth Corey, now you're really making me work. Go to 70? All right. 70 it is. Now let's look at that GoFundMe. All right. Now we start anew, folks. We have raised $35,451 of our $70,000 goal. Thank you guys for understanding, and onward. Now, the last thing I'll say before I get to Elizabeth Warren, part of how we're going to cover this campaign on the road, Bernie, we want to cover as much as the Bernie Sanders campaign, and obviously we'll be fair and try to cover some of Elizabeth Warren's events, but predominantly my goal is to cover Bernie Sanders. I think that is who the corporate media is going to take out. I think they're going to try to take out Bernie Sanders, and I think we definitely need real, authentic, aggressive coverage to get the word out of the movement behind Bernie Sanders. I think Bernie Sanders has a better chance than Elizabeth Warren, which I'm going to get to in a bit. Part of that is also us building up long term. So a huge way that not only GoFundMe, that we're going to be able to cover the 2020 campaign is membership. So I hope all of you looking at your budgets for 2019 can go to statusquo.com, click on Become a Member. Check out the options. When Jen is back, we're going to create a third level because quite a few people have communicated that they want to contribute more than $10 a month. If you're a patron, I've already told you, you could stay right there as a patron. If you're not a patron, we prefer people signing up through our website for membership because our website takes a smaller percentage than Patreon. And we also don't want to really be reliant on third-party platforms long-term, which Patreon is a third-party platform. And I don't like the fact that Patreon's beginning to suppress and deplatform content and individuals. So, statusquo.com/join. We have 61 members right now. We would like to get to 100 members by the end of January. So there's the join link. And of course, here's the GoFundMe link. And you could find both of these links in the description of this live stream. So, thank you. And remember, 203 people are watching right now, but only 80 have liked the live stream. The more people that press the like button, the more people that see the video. So try to remember. Try to remember. Going to sign up for membership on the 3rd when I get my paycheck. Thank you, Sheridan Jones. No Biden, no Beto, no Booker. I agree, Grandma Christine. Joined via Status Quo website today. Yeehaw. Thank you, Tweak Me Nips. All right, guys and gals, like the live stream, and let's go. So, Elizabeth Warren has announced her exploratory committee for president. I'm not even going to pretend what that means. She basically announced she's running for president. That's what an exploratory committee means. I will play you the video if you haven't seen it. Here is her announcement video.
In our country, if you work hard and play by the rules, you ought to be able to take care of yourself and the people you love. That's a fundamental promise of America. A promise that should be true for everyone. Growing up in Oklahoma, that promise came through for me and my family. After my older brothers joined the military and I was still just a kid, my daddy had a heart attack and couldn't work. My mom found a minimum wage job at Sears, and that job saved our house and our family. My daddy ended up as a janitor, but he raised a daughter who got to be a public school teacher, a law professor, and a senator. We got a real opportunity to build something. Working families today face a lot tougher path than my family did. And families of color face a path that is steeper and rockier, a path made even harder by the impact of generations of discrimination. I've spent my career getting to the bottom of why America's promise works for some families, but others who work just as hard slip through the cracks into disaster. And what I've found is terrifying. These aren't cracks that families are falling into, they're traps. America's middle class is under attack. How did we get here? Billionaires and big corporations decided they wanted more of the pie, and they enlisted politicians to cut them a fatter slice. They crippled unions so no one could stop them.
We're going to turn the bull loose.
Dismantled the financial rules meant to keep us safe after the Great Depression, and cut their own taxes so they paid less than their secretaries and janitors.
It's time to write the rules for the middle class.
After Wall Street crashed our economy in 2008, I left the classroom to go to Washington and confront the broken system head on.
Elizabeth Warren, apparently not afraid to tangle with Wall Street.
Elizabeth Warren is heading into the lion's den.
Mrs. Warren goes to Washington.
She did.
We created America's first consumer watchdog to hold the big banks accountable.
A woman who has warned of another meltdown if Washington doesn't straighten up.
I never thought I'd run for office, not in a million years. But when Republican senators tried to sabotage the reforms and run me out of town, I went back to Massachusetts and ran against one of them. And I beat him.
And we are going to turn Washington back to the people.
Today, corruption is poisoning our democracy. Politicians look the other way while big insurance companies deny patients life-saving coverage, while big banks rip off consumers, and while big oil companies destroy this planet. Our government's supposed to work for all of us, but instead, it has become a tool for the wealthy and well-connected. The whole scam is propped up by an echo chamber of fear and hate, designed to distract and divide us. People who will do or say anything to hang on to power point the finger at anyone who looks, thinks, prays, or loves differently than they do.
Build that wall.
But this dark path doesn't have to be our future. We can make our democracy work for all of us. We can make our economy work for all of us. We can rebuild America's middle class, but this time we gotta build it for everyone. No matter where you live in America, and no matter where your family came from in the world, you deserve a path to opportunity. Because no matter what our differences, most of us want the same thing: to be able to work hard, play by the same set of rules, and take care of the people we love. That's the America I'm fighting for. And that's why today I'm launching an exploratory committee for president. But the outcome of this election will depend on you. In the last 2 years, millions of people have done more than they ever thought they would to protect the promise of America. And here's what we learned. If we organize together, if we fight together, if we persist together, we can win. We can, and we will.
So that was Elizabeth Warren's video. And again, just as a reminder, I am both live and handling the live chat while Jen is off this week. So I hope you don't mind if I miss, if you donate to GoFundMe, we usually thank you in the live chat and the super chat. If you super chat, we usually thank you, but sorry if I miss a few. Don't think we don't appreciate it, but I can't go live and handle the live chat at the same time. So here's what I think. I think a lot about this. Number one, I think that we cannot be so pure that we lose our minds. So, as I tweeted yesterday, and I will say to you, if by chance Elizabeth Warren won the Democratic nomination and was facing Donald Trump, to me, I can only tell you my analysis, that is not a lesser of two evils situation anywhere close to Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump. I don't think we should make absolute, they have to be as fire-breathing as us, the standard. I do think Elizabeth Warren would be a way, way better president than Donald Trump for our fight for economic equality. There is nobody, if you're looking at it objectively, there is nobody that could objectively say Donald Trump would be better economically for working people than somebody like Elizabeth Warren. You're entitled to disagree. But I'm not just gonna, I'm not gonna just tell you what you want to hear. My analysis is that Elizabeth Warren, despite not being the most progressive possible candidate, if she won the nomination, which I don't think she would, I personally would vote for her. So that's number one. I'm putting out my analysis as far as if she won the nomination. Okay? You don't have to agree. I think she's 100 times better than a Hillary Clinton in just about every way. There are problems with Elizabeth Warren, which I'm going to get to. Now, moving beyond that, I do not think Elizabeth Warren should be the Democratic nominee for president. I do not believe she would defeat Donald Trump. And I believe, both personally and professionally, that actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than wonderful commercials. Talking about your family story and how hard you fought for the middle class. Actions speak louder than words. Elizabeth Warren's actions, to me, do not indicate a consistent, progressive warrior. She indicates somebody who has been very, very politically calculating. She indicates somebody who is economically fairly progressive, but has not fought in the biggest progressive battles of the 21st century, did not fight on the right side of those battles. I do not think Elizabeth Warren, based on her actions of the last few years, can be relied on the same as Bernie Sanders. If elected president, I do not trust that Elizabeth Warren will first fight aggressively for the positions she advocated in the campaign. I think she is more likely to play politics and cut deals with establishment Democrats than Bernie Sanders. And the reason is because essentially that's what she's already done. And part of why Bernie Sanders sparked a movement, which include the majority of you watching, part of why he sparked a movement is because Bernie Sanders never strayed from his ideals. He never tried to make backroom deals with the Hillary Clintons of the world. He'd rather fight and figuratively die on the battlefield for the ideas that he so passionately believes in than initially try to compromise. And frankly, if you don't know, Elizabeth Warren, as far back as 2014 and 2015, was cozying up to Hillary Clinton's campaign. DM Lane, you're wrong. Bernie is not that way. He's just not. For those who have said Bernie sold out by endorsing Hillary Clinton, I didn't agree with it, but I don't think you could be exclusively black or white. I don't think he should have endorsed Hillary Clinton. I think he should have basically said, I don't want Donald Trump to be president, and I'm going to do what I have to do, but I would not have stood up there and campaigned with her personally. But to say, Bernie Sanders sold out is frankly ridiculous. So, here's the thing. Elizabeth Warren, if you don't know, Elizabeth Warren, as far back as 2016, and there are other emails from WikiLeaks that show communications in 2015, Elizabeth Warren's staff was meeting with Hillary Clinton's staff. Don't you think that's a little odd for... This is an email that Hillary Clinton's staff sent to other members of Hillary Clinton's staff. So this is an internal Hillary Clinton email about conversations they had with Elizabeth Warren. As a follow-up to the HRC, Hillary Clinton's meeting with Warren, I spent about an hour and 20 minutes this afternoon with Dan Geldin, a longtime advisor to the senator. He was intently focused on personnel issues, laid out a detailed case against the Bob Rubin School of Democratic Policymakers, was very critical of the Obama administration's choices, and explained at length the opposition to Antonio Weiss. We then carefully went through a list of people they do like, which Elizabeth Warren sent over to Hillary Clinton earlier. We have already been in touch with a number of them, and I asked if he would be comfortable introducing me to the others, to which he seemed reasonably amenable. We spent less time on specific policies because he seemed less interested in that, although he did express some flexibility on Glass-Steagall, saying too big to fail is the bigger issue, and was open to our ideas on addressing through the tax code, assuming it actually works. I'm not going to read you the whole thing. I'll take this link. I'll put it in the super chat. If you want to read this, feel free. But this shows that Elizabeth Warren in 2016, but there were also other emails showing her campaign basically doing backroom negotiations with Hillary Clinton's campaign because Hillary Clinton's campaign desperately wanted Elizabeth Warren's endorsement. Now, if you are a progressive, if you are economically progressive, if you are socially progressive, you wouldn't consider endorsing Hillary Clinton over Bernie Sanders. In fairness to Elizabeth Warren, that conversation happened, let me see, Oh, no, it didn't. That conversation happened. Bernie Sanders had already announced he was running. So here you have Elizabeth Warren, who claims to be this progressive warrior doing deals with Hillary Clinton. Here you have Elizabeth Warren, her advisor, saying she's not as focused on the reinstating Glass-Steagall. She's more focused on breaking up the big banks. Well, I agree with Elizabeth Warren on a lot of things, but if her advisor is saying she is not as focused on reinstating Glass-Steagall, then she doesn't understand, as well as she claims to understand, how the global financial crash happened in the first place. As economist Richard Wolff, who, if you missed that interview, we had Richard Wolff on the program Sunday. That interview is up in full on Status Quo's channel. Economist Richard Wolff, like many other economists, has said, the reason your 401ks went to shit, the reason your savings are depleted, the reason you might have gotten foreclosed on, the reason there was $750 billion bailouts that you paid for was because Glass-Steagall was repealed in 1999 by President Bill Clinton, a Democrat. So if Elizabeth Warren's advisor was saying, well, we don't really, we think the real issue is too big to fail, not necessarily reinstating Glass-Steagall, the issue is both. There's many other issues, but that is the main issue. When they merged commercial banks with investment banks, that allowed the casino gambling of your money, of pension funds, of savings accounts, of retirement accounts. That's what allowed it, by repealing Glass-Steagall under a Democratic president. So right there is a problem, that her advisor was behind the scenes kind of making deals. This is how you're going to get our endorsement. If your campaign, speaking to Hillary Clinton's campaign, doesn't bring on A, B, C, and D Wall Streeter, which Hillary Clinton's campaign ended up doing. They did bring on all these people from Wall Street. And number two, Porta Player. I wish Jordan will tell the truth how much money he takes from Russia. Hey, Porta Player, if I took all his money from Russia, why would I have to do all-day Sunday marathons on GoFundMe and work 7 days a week? If I'm getting paid by Russia, damn, I'm working too hard. But I love the trolls. You're all welcome. Feel free to troll. So, the actions of Elizabeth Warren simply have not matched the rhetoric. I don't want to upset you. But I think the only way to fairly cover Elizabeth Warren, and why I'm saying I don't think she would be the right candidate, I don't think she is more progressive than Bernie Sanders, I have to play this clip of her with my old boss, Cenk Uygur. Here we go.
So a natural question is, why not back him during the 2016 primaries if you two are the closest aligned in policy?
So look, I think that our primary, I thought was a good thing, and I thought it was good that Bernie was out there, that Hillary was out there. They were giving two different visions. They were out there through all the states. I thought it put both energy on our side. I'll tell you something else I thought it did. It made me proud to be a Democrat. While the Republicans were doing their clown car thing, with who was going to be voted off the island, and then, of course, ended up with a reality star as their standard bearer. I was proud of what Democrats were out there talking about. I thought it was the right thing to do. And in the end, when it was time, I went out there and fought, once it was resolved, to try to get Hillary elected. And I would have done the same for Bernie, no doubt about it.
So I'm going to play more of that, but I first want to say, no, Elizabeth Warren. The time, when she says when it was time, the time to endorse Bernie Sanders, if you are who you say you are, Elizabeth Warren, if you believe in progressive economic ideology, if you believe that we need to make number one priority economic equality, investing in working people, unrigging the system, economic opportunities for minorities, ending the economic oppression of minorities, curbing gentrification so that it doesn't force poor people out of where they live. If you believe in those things, the time to act was after Bernie Sanders announced he was running for president. Period. End of story. You could call me a purist if you want. But if Elizabeth Warren believed in everything she says she believes, then she would have recognized that was the biggest battle and the biggest opportunity of the progressive movement, possibly since the 1960s. Bernie Sanders movement. She should have endorsed Bernie Sanders. And I had this debate when I was at the Young Turks with my former colleague, Emma Vigeland. You know, I don't criticize her, but I just disagree. You know, when people like Emma would say, like, you're going to get hung up on this one minor thing, it's not a minor thing. This is about what kind of individual are you? Are you a calculating politician that we can't trust is going to actually carry through with the things you're saying you're going to carry through with? Or are you an authentic, pure, progressive politician? That doesn't mean if Bernie Sanders became president that he would not have to compromise at times. Compromise at times is not the problem. The problem is when, right out of the gate, like Barack Obama, for example, you essentially give the other side 60% of what they want. Compromise, sometimes you have to compromise. But I want to vote for a president, and I want to support a president who I know is, right out of the gate, going to be fighting for 100% of what we want. And he's not going to give away the farm to neoliberals or extremist Republicans. And if you haven't pressed the like button, press the like button on this live stream. The more people who press the like button, the more viewers we have. So right now we have 330 people watching. The more people that press that like button, that smash that like button, the more people that come. And by the way, if you're noticing, as our subscribers go up, as our likes go up, we get more trolls. And as FDR once said, I invite your hatred. I invite your hatred. But you know what, trolls? Do me a favor, trolls. I kindly ask you, if you're going to occupy space, in the status quo super chat, donate to our GoFundMe. Don't be greedy. You don't get free space here forever and ever. I don't care if you hate me. I don't care if you call me a Russian puppet. Donate. There's the GoFundMe link. So, you know, this is not a small issue to me, and it's not a small issue to progressives. The fact that she chose politics and her calculations, her political calculations said, maybe I'll get a position in Hillary Clinton's cabinet. Her political calculations said Bernie Sanders has no chance against Hillary Clinton. Her political calculations said I can get concessions from Hillary Clinton's campaign on policy. Frankly, she was naive to think Hillary Clinton wouldn't have just told her whatever the hell Elizabeth Warren wanted to hear, and then if she became president, Hillary Clinton wasn't going to follow through with any of those things. It's the same exact thing Nancy Pelosi just did to Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and other progressive that were newly elected. The establishment will tell you what they want to hear to get your votes, to get elected, and then they will moonwalk away from those promises. Happens every time. Happens every time. So, I'm going to continue playing this. I don't really play a lot of Young Turks clips, but I mean, this is the interview where she answered the question, or frankly, didn't answer the question, and I think it's instructive.
Do you get why some progressives are still mad about that? That Massachusetts was decided by 1.3 points, Iowa was decided by 0.3, that perhaps he could have helped him put him over the top, and then he would have won Iowa, New Hampshire, Massachusetts.
And there are people who see it the other way.
Yeah.
You know, for me, I think about it this way. There is nothing the Republicans would love better than for us to stand around and shoot at each other over and relitigate what happened in 2016. I look at what's happening in Washington right now. I look at what Donald Trump wants to do on health care and the Republican majority in Congress wants to do. I look at this new budget they've put out. I look at what's happening right now in the connections with Russia. And I say, God, we got to get focused here. And we got to focus on what Donald Trump is going to do in the next 24 hours, the next week, the next month. That's where we need our energy.
I also understand that, but primaries are important, as you say. You really enjoy the fact that there was a strong primary and a discussion of ideas. Yeah. I'm going to skip the standard question about if you're going to run. You've got a book out, et cetera, right? And we understand what people think that means.
Yeah.
Okay. But if you don't run...
You do know this is my 11th book.
I know that.
Books are how I argue.
No, I understand that.
Okay, good.
I'm skipping that question.
Okay. Okay.
What I'm asking is, if you don't run, do you think this time around that you will have a more forceful opinion in the primaries? Because that is when people will decide who our standard bearer is. Their standard bearer is the reality show star.
Yeah.
And our standard bearer will either be a progressive or someone who is more beholden to donors,
yeah,
or someone in between. So if, for example, Bernie Sanders were to run again, if you're not running, would you support him?
I don't know where we'll be in 2020. It's a long time off. I supported and helped Bernie.
So you get the point. She refused to answer why she didn't support Bernie Sanders. And frankly, not saying this for any reason other than it's what I think. But I think Cenk did a bad job there. I think he should have pressed her even further. She refused to answer the question, period. I mean, that's a talking point. I don't think Democrats should be focusing on inter-Democrat battle. We should be focusing on Trump. That's a talking point. He should have pressed her further to get an answer. And the answer is simple. She didn't think Bernie Sanders had a chance. And instead of trying to help him, even if she didn't think he had a chance, do you think Nina Turner thought it was a slam dunk that Bernie Sanders was going to beat Hillary Clinton? Nina Turner originally endorsed Hillary Clinton. And then when Bernie Sanders entered the campaign, she did one of the bravest things you could do in the political world. She reversed her decision against the Clintons. For most political people, that would have been suicide. But Nina Turner went with her gut, and she went with her morality, and she stuck with Bernie Sanders. And for that, she is now one of the most popular politicians in America. And frankly, I would prefer Nina Turner as Bernie Sanders' vice president than I would Elizabeth Warren. And again, my critique about Elizabeth Warren is not solely on policy. I think economically, she is progressive. A lot of you don't like that, but I hope you respect. I'm not going to just, at status quo, I, nor Jen, nor Ty, we are not going to exist to feed you exactly what you want. Sometimes you're going to disagree with me, but I'm always going to tell you the truth. I do think Elizabeth Warren is economically progressive. The problem with Elizabeth Warren is not, to me, on policy. Although I think it's absurd. If you're Elizabeth Warren, you cannot have a message about helping working people. You cannot have a message about saving the middle class. You cannot have a message about taking it to Wall Street. You cannot have that message and then vote for a $715 billion defense budget. You can't do that. You cannot be a neocon and simultaneously talk about the middle class and saving the middle class and taking it to Wall Street and cutting monopolies. The military-industrial complex and the never-ending defense budget, all of that is a huge, one of the biggest reasons why the middle class is disappearing in this country. $6 trillion and counting. $6 trillion and counting in Iraq and Afghanistan. And by the way, we're still in Iraq. All these people say Obama left Iraq. Did you just see that Trump went to visit over 5,000 troops still in Iraq? We don't leave countries. When we go to countries, we stay forever and ever. You cannot be a progressive and have a progressive economic message while not calling fiercely to cut the military budget. You could talk, we could argue about how much does it need to be cut. Should it be 10%? Should it be 20%? I think 50% to start. But that's a major policy problem Elizabeth Warren has. That's not a small thing. You cannot have those two things at once. So that is the main policy critique that I have of Elizabeth Warren, and she needs to defend that. She needs to defend that because I don't think she has a defense for that. Period. The other thing is, frankly, Elizabeth Warren is not a socialist. Elizabeth Warren is a capitalist. She says, of course I'm a capitalist. I just believe in fair markets. Well, Elizabeth Warren, if you talk to intelligent, non-bought-off economists, capitalism is unsustainable. Capitalism is what's causing this economic inequality. Capitalism is what's causing half the country to live in poverty. Capitalism is why nearly 40% of student loan borrowers are nearing default. Capitalism is why a majority of Americans cannot afford a $400 emergency. So I like her on some things, but she is incomplete in other areas. Now, does she have to copy Bernie Sanders? No. But, the bottom line is, if you're not willing to take on capitalism and the capitalist system that has caused this economic suffering basically for 40 to 50 years in this country, then you can't simultaneously stand up and say, I'm the best progressive candidate. You can't do it. So here's what I think. I think that I don't know many progressives because I've interviewed probably at this point 2,000 people in the last 3 years, the majority of them progressives. I personally don't know a large percentage of progressives that would vote for Elizabeth Warren over Bernie Sanders if given a choice. Again, many of you won't like it. I said this in the beginning of this, and I'll say it again now. If it was Elizabeth Warren versus Donald Trump, I don't think we could be insanely, I did not vote for Hillary Clinton. I think Hillary Clinton was not that much of a lesser evil than Donald Trump personally. I think Elizabeth Warren is. But there's no point in talking about Elizabeth Warren versus Donald Trump right now. Right now, we have to talk about the Democratic primary. I think Bernie Sanders, Jason Link, did you do a stream about Ojeda announcing a couple months ago he was way more energy than Warren, but is a far from perfect? Wang also mentioned a run. Thank you for the $5, Jason. I didn't stream about it, but I have reached out to Richard Ojeda to try and get an interview with him, just so you know. So I'm trying to get that to happen. By the way, for this Sunday's marathon live stream, we will have an interview with Rolling Stones' Matt Taibbi. We will have an interview with Rolling Stones' Matt Taibbi, and it is not completely confirmed yet, but I do believe I'm going to have an interview this Sunday with Lee Camp of Redacted Tonight. So we already have Matt Taibbi. I recorded that interview earlier today, and I am supposed to interview Lee later this week. So we will have a Rolling Stone contributor on Goldman Sachs' latest treachery, which they might have criminal prosecution coming their way, and hopefully Lee Camp, because Donald Trump is now already moonwalking away from removing troops in Syria. So, gonna have Taibbi, gonna have Lee Camp, and that's what we're trying to do with these marathon Sundays. We're trying to get progressive voices that you love. We're trying to get even sometimes non-progressive voices. We're trying to get economists. We just had Richard Wolff on. Obviously, we had Jimmy Dore on 2 weeks ago. We're trying to get the best of the best, so you'll tune in and preferably, hopefully, donate to the cause. As I talked about earlier, we really are trying to push that GoFundMe, and there's the link one last time today. So, Hey, I'd like to know, voice of reason, how much are they paying you? How much is Correct the Record paying you? Porta playa? Love the trolls. Love the trolls. And let me give you a little update where we're at with the GoFundMe. We are at $35,511. So, thank you to Barbara Johnson, $5. Fadi, $10. Anonymous, $35. $10 from Brian Thomas. $35,511. So I believe we're still halfway. Is that halfway to $70,000? I'm not good at math. Is $35,000 halfway to $70,000? I think it is. So we're now halfway to the new goal. Halfway to the new goal. And by the way, trolls, I'm not kidding. I'm going to start blocking you if you don't donate. You can't just hang out here, and get free real estate. But I guess it's a good sign. If we have more trolls, that means we have more viewers. And we're almost at 25,000 subscribers. So keep it coming, and keep the GoFundMe coming. So the last thing I will say on Elizabeth Warren is, not only do I have problems based on the record. Thank you, OTR Trucker, $5 in the super chat. Woo! What a roller coaster ride this last trip around the Sunday was. What do you say, Status Quo? One more time around? I'm doing live streams every Sunday, probably till I'm dead, because we need to raise money, and I'd rather raise money from you, the audience, than from plutocrats and the very special interests that are destroying this country. Unlike some progressive outlets, we don't take money from plutocrats that are destroying your country. Thank you very much. The final thing I will say about Elizabeth Warren is something personal to me. Because at the end of the day, like I always say, actions speak louder than words. Actions speak louder than words. Rashid Barnes, $15 in the super chat for the troll fund. We love you, Rashid. Thank you. Oh, are you a troll, Rashid? Appreciate it. Or you're just saying for the troll fund. That's fine. So, hey, I didn't say who I'm talking about. You guys are saying who I'm talking about. I didn't say which organization I'm talking about. But you're very smart. At the end of the day, being progressive is not like being a real progressive politician. Forget being a politician. Being a real progressive means you stand up for what is right when it's hard to do. When it's the hardest thing to do. Okay? You should be standing up for what's progressive when it's easy, but especially when it's hard. I will never understand why Elizabeth Warren, and I'm not bringing up the Native American thing, and, she did this DNA test, which I thought was kind of stupid. I don't really care. I don't think it's an issue, so I'm not going to bother with it. I'll never understand why Elizabeth Warren, who claims Native American ancestry, as a progressive, did not stand up and holler and scream about what was going on at Standing Rock. This is a major human rights issue that was going on. She has a Senate office. She has advisors. She knew what was going on. She saw the brutality. She said nothing. In that commercial, in that ad she ran announcing her run for presidency, she by name said the oil industry is destroying our planet. Well, she's saying it now. Where were you in 2016? And again, some, maybe less pure. I don't really think it makes you a purist. It's just right and wrong. Some more sympathetic or understanding people will say, yeah, she should have, but, can't hold it against her. You can. Because you want to know something? Tulsi Gabbard was at Standing Rock. You want to know something? Jill Stein was at Standing Rock. You want to know something? Bernie Sanders, he was not there. He spoke out fiercely against what was going on at Standing Rock and against the Dakota Access Pipeline. So, I've already talked about her voting for this insane defense budget, which that's completely out of state. If you want to tackle income inequality, if you want to tackle, boosting wages for the working class, if you want to tackle increasing opportunity for working people, if you want to stop these jobs from being offshored to China and Mexico, none of that can start until you cut this military budget in half. Period. And I will take on Bernie if he is not proposing to cut it in half. 20%, not enough. Especially since they're raising it. They raised it to $715 billion. It's like, but we never talk about how we're going to pay for that. How are we going to pay for it? We never talk about that. So, thank you, Pop Reality. $2 in the super chat. Medicare for all or bust. So, the bottom line is this. Elizabeth Warren did not show up for the biggest progressive fight since the 60s, possibly. And that was Bernie Sanders' campaign. Now, her endorsing him wouldn't have meant he would have won. It would have helped him. I think he would have won Massachusetts if she endorsed him. And secondly, she stood quiet, just like Nancy Pelosi, just like Chuck Schumer, just like the Democratic Party, as Native Americans and environmental activists were getting their heads beat in, were getting grenades fired at them, were getting tear gassed, pepper sprayed, all sorts of inhumane things, because the Democratic Party stayed silent, because the Democratic Party is also bought off by fossil fuel companies and big oil. You cannot square those two things with being a progressive warrior. And that is why I believe actions speak louder than words. That is why I believe she is not the right choice. That is why I believe Bernie Sanders is the right choice. You don't necessarily have to agree with every single thing Bernie Sanders has ever done, but one thing is true. Bernie Sanders has showed up for every fight. How do I know that? Because he's led every fight when not a soul would join him. Bernie Sanders was doing it when Bernie Sanders wasn't trending, when there was no such thing as Feel the Burn, when there was no such thing as burners. He was doing it when it wasn't cool to do it, starting in the 1980s. Thank you, Madatil215, $4.99 in the super chat. Critical to not let Trump's opponents be a corporatist, centrist Democrat with a progressive facade. Self-proclaimed progressives must be scrutinized. I couldn't agree more, because you want to know something? The only way to defeat Trump is to have the starkest contrast imaginative to Trump. Frankly, Trump might be able to out-left Elizabeth Warren on military funding if Trump actually follows through on pulling troops from Syria and pulling some troops from Afghanistan while she's voting for a $715 military budget. No. NHINPG, $5 in the super chat. Great reporting at Standing Rock, Jordan. Thank you. And I still want to do an After the Rock. That was one of the things I wanted to do when we launched that coup. We want to do an After the Rock. Porto player, hate to do it. Goodbye. I'm not beyond blocking trolls if they annoy me. So I just blocked Portal player. That's how much Russia's paying me. Goodbye. So at the end of the day, obviously the choice is yours. I don't tell people how to vote. I care about informing you and giving you the fair analysis. I care about telling you the truth. To me, she is not the preferred choice. Bernie Sanders is. Would I take her over Kamala Harris? Yes. Would I take her over Beto O'Rourke? Yes. Would I take her over Cory Booker? Hell yeah. Would I take her over Joe Biden? Fuck yeah. Would I take her over Bernie Sanders? No chance in hell. No chance in hell. And that is why if we have the money, I will cover some Elizabeth Warren events. I do think that's fair. I can't just cover only Bernie events. But the bottom line is this. Why, and I told you why, we raised our GoFundMe to $70,000 is I have it on very, very good sourcing that Bernie Sanders has already decided to run for president. No, to the person who asked me earlier, these are not the same sources that told Colin Powell weapons of mass destruction existed. I think one is slightly more serious than the other, but no, this is very good sourcing. I trust the people who told me this. And number two, I want extra funding so we could ensure that we could cover Bernie's rallies, his events, talk to voters directly. Now, $70,000, frankly, isn't going to be enough to cover the whole campaign, but it would give us a good start and would help us then attract larger funding. We are, in the background, trying to attract larger funding. But I hope, as I always say, I hope you follow my actions, because read my lips. I don't want to sound like George H.W. Bush, but read my lips. Us attracting larger funding, we are not speaking with corporations. We are not speaking with plutocrats who have funneled money to Barack Obama, Hillary Clinton, and all of those kinds. We are not speaking to people that do not share our values. And most importantly, any potential individual or corporation funding us, any one of them is signing away. They will have, he, she, or company partnering with us, sponsoring with us, or other types of funding will have zero editorial control. I will go live 7 days a week for the rest of my life rather than give away any control of the tone, of the voice, or our DNA. Because our DNA is to answer to you, and our DNA is to tell the truth, to report the truth, because the truth is the Democrats are corrupt, the Republicans are corrupt, the government are a bunch of sociopaths, and frankly, a lot of them are psychopaths. They don't care about you. They care about staying in power and buying another yacht. So that's why I'm transparent. That's why I started this live stream, talking to you before I made a decision about raising our GoFundMe goal. And that is why the very individuals that I am reaching out to now, and Jen is reaching out to now, both for companies that are aligned. Frankly, I'd love to get a kind of a partnership or any type of deal with a Ben & Jerry's type corporation, which are very progressive. I'd love possibly with Patagonia. There are progressive and environmental friendly companies that we would like to do business with and help us fund the journalism that we're trying to do. Until we secure those deals, I'm coming straight to you, the people. Because the point, if we're going to give the microphone back to the people, which is our slogan, which is our DNA, if we're going to do that, we need to be funded only by the people, nobody else. So that's the deal. I chose to only talk about Elizabeth Warren today. I wanted you to get a full bird's eye view. To be clear, I personally don't support Elizabeth Warren. To be clear, I think Bernie Sanders is better on policies. To be clear, I think Bernie Sanders is better than her economically. I think Bernie Sanders is better than her militarily. And I think Bernie Sanders has been more consistent to her than her. And that is why I support Bernie Sanders. The second thing is, frankly, Bernie Sanders has accomplished more than her in the Senate. Bernie Sanders has accomplished more than her in the Senate, including Bernie Sanders was just behind the first use of the War Powers Act in American history. Bernie Sanders' legislation to stop U.S. involvement in the Yemen war was the first use of the War Powers Act. And Bernie Sanders, brought together a bipartisan coalition of Democrats and Republicans. So those who say Bernie Sanders can never get anything done and just talks, you're full of shit. Bernie Sanders is a reason they call him the Amendment King. There is a reason he was able, through his legislation, to pass the end of U.S. involvement in the Yemen war. The House of Representatives killed it. It passed the Senate through Bernie Sanders' leadership. Imagine what he could do as president. And Bernie Sanders, not through the electoral process, but through grassroots pressure, got the richest man in the world. Got the richest man in the world to raise wages at Amazon to $15 an hour. That's not a small thing. That's a major thing. And could be a sign of things to come for other companies. We're talking to you, Walmart, who Bernie Sanders is already going after. And yes, good point. We have to give credit to Congressman Ro Khanna, who also was part of that, pushing Amazon at $15 an hour minimum wage. And Ro Khanna was leading the charge in the House. But Paul Ryan, who thankfully is gone from our public life. Thankfully, thankfully, he's gone because he killed it in the House. So, what are my goals for 2019? I don't really do many resolutions. Here's my goal for 2019. I want to continually grow status quo. I'm not worried about taking down other independent media networks. I'm not worried about competing with anybody else because, frankly, I don't see competition. I don't see any independent outlet out there, or those who claim to be independent, rolling up their sleeves and covering the Flints of the world, covering the Standing Rocks of the world, covering the disappearing middle class, covering water contamination around this country. I don't see it because I'm always out there. As much as funding allows, Ty and I and Jen will be out there. We don't see anyone else. You want to know why? Because there is no one else. You know what they're doing? They're covering Trump and Russia and bullshit 24/7. So if we get the funding, here's what we're going to cover. The Bernie Sanders campaign, environmental genocide, pipelines, water poisoning, state and local corruption, police brutality, economic oppression, and we're going to break some stories along the way. So I hope, if you're tapped out, if you've already donated to our GoFundMe, take a breather. We understand that. Share the GoFundMe if you can. If you can't donate, at least do us the favor. Share. Sharing is caring. If you could also do us the favor, share status quo. Make sure your friends, your family know this exists. Tell them to check it out at 5 o'clock Eastern, Monday through Friday. Tell them to join us Sunday, noon Eastern. We do believe in word of mouth. We also have our documentary on Flint coming out. So my goal is to hit that 70,000, in the GoFundMe, which I think we're going to hit in a few months. My goal is to keep growing our paid membership at $5 a month or $10 a month. The more paid members we have, the less we have to worry about covering these trips. We need to build an independent media revolution through consistent membership. And you're going to see what that membership is getting you because we're going to be out there in the field showing you. I'm not interested in doing shows every day from my parents' kitchen or my apartment. I want to get out there. Ty wants to get out there. We've already showed you that's what we're going to do. And my last pitch and why you should donate to the GoFundMe, if your goal is for Bernie Sanders to win the Democratic nomination, assuming he runs as a Democrat, if you believe that Bernie Sanders can win the Democratic nomination, if you believe that Bernie Sanders is the best candidate to run against Donald Trump, then I got news for you. There's no way in hell Bernie Sanders is going to win that nomination. There's no way in hell he's going to even be able to beat Donald Trump if there is not media to counteract the corporate media propaganda that is already in high gear attempting to drown him out. There is no chance in hell Bernie Sanders will win that nomination if there is not true, keyword true, independent, progressive media out there to counteract the corporate media and to give his supporters and his voters the microphone to show his movement and to take on the corporate media. I am not going to be out there being a cheerleader for Bernie Sanders. I personally support him, but I'm not going to fudge the facts for Bernie Sanders. But I am going to lift the voices of his supporters. I am going to hand you the microphone, and we are going to build Status Quo to be the biggest independent media network on planet Earth. It might not happen in 2019, but this year is going to help us get there because I don't see any competition, and I see a lot of places out there claiming they're progressive, but covering Trump, Russia, and bullshit 24/7. Not interested in doing that. Thank you for watching. See you tomorrow at 5 p.m. Please, 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 if you haven't, consider donating to our GoFundMe. Please, 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 if you haven't, consider adding us to your monthly budget. statusquo.com/join. See you tomorrow, 5 o'clock. Peace.